Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're all for the advancement of technology and tech solutions in Nigeria. Joining us now is Yinka Adewale, co-founder and CEO of Kudi AI. Kudi AI provides ease in making payments online with a more humanistic touch. Welcome to the morning show, Yinka.
Welcome to the morning show, Yinka. Tell us about the humanistic touch. I'm interested in that.
Okay, so at Kudi, we believe that commerce and payment is largely conversational. So, for example, if I'm going to ask you for money, I'm most likely going to give you a call or send you a message to say, hey, please, I need 5,000 naira, for example. So we believe that the way people sort of think about payments and transactions in their mind sort of comes in messages. So what Kudi does is to make that experience into technology whereby you could chat with Kudi and say, hi, I need to buy airtime. And then Kudi gets back to you to say, how much do you want to buy? So it's more like an assistant that walks you through that transaction process.
Okay, would you say she's, is it he or she?
Yeah, it's a she.
She? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are using, Diamond Bank using Ada.
Yeah, true.
So would you say it's similar to Siri, but actually goes an extra mile?
Yeah, so it's still largely, so the technology word for such a technology, for example, you could say it's a bot, for example.
It's a chatbot.
Yeah, it's a chatbot. So, but what we're doing right now, it's mostly conversation. So you can't talk to Kudi in words like voice to say, hey, it's not a phone call, but it uses messaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some gaps you would say are still in that industry, in the fintech industry, in terms of online payments and just getting stuff done?
So I feel like one of the biggest challenges people have with digital payments is the fact that trust is it's a big challenge, because when you do a transaction with a bank, for example, and something goes wrong, you can go to a branch and say, hey, give me my money. Yeah. If you're very dramatic, the bank MD or branch manager could come attend to you.
Right, very dramatic.
But when you go to a website to do a transaction and something goes wrong, sometimes you try to contact support, for example, and they tell you that, hey, we only work 9 to 5, for example,
right.
And there's nothing you can do. So I believe that trust is a big issue that has to be solved. But the fact that we have quite a number of large young population that are willing to take risk on online transactions. So I think that's sort of shown because if you take a look at the industry data, for example, e-payments in Nigeria has been growing at least 100% year on year over the last 3 years. So I think it's growing, but definitely trust has to be solved. If people can trust that their money is not going to go missing, I think people will do online transactions.
Exactly, and I always ask this question. So who insures this? Because again, with the banks, there's NDIC, they insure the money if anything happens. Who insures
Kudi's transactions?
Right, Kudi's transactions.
So we're not a bank, so we don't take deposits. But the thing is that for all the transactions we do, so there are payment processors, banks at the end of these transactions. Right. So at the end of the day, we are just like a front-facing because banks are always going to be relevant, as I like to say. But the thing about building technology is that we understand the customer more. From a bank's perspective, a bank is a large organization that does a lot of things. This is the only thing we do, so we can nail a very good user experience for the customers. But at the back, we have a settlement bank that all those transactions go through. Right. So at no point in time does your money actually touch our hand. As a matter of fact, your card information and all those things are not stored in our system. So we're just an intermediary between the customer and the banks.
Yeah. So how do you actually make money then?
Yes.
For the layman who doesn't understand anything about tech.
So we make money in two ways. So the sort of transactions people can do on our platforms, bill payments and money transfer. So for bill payments, for example, we typically get a commission from the vendors. So take, for example, electricity payments, cable TV subscription, internet subscription. So these vendors sort of, because we sort of facilitate those transactions for them. So they give us like a commission on those transactions. And for like regular money transfer, we take a fee per transaction.
Right, okay. So, I mean, like tons of fintech solution providers are coming up now, and that's amazing. But how do you see this impacting the economy in the long run?
So I think that, if you think about Nigeria's population, for example, you can argue whether it's a 180 million, 190 million population. There are barely maybe 25 million active bank accounts monthly in Nigeria. So I think there's still a long gap to go in terms of financially including people. And then if you think about it from a bank's perspective, it's just too expensive for the banks to do it, because if you're going to go set up branches, it costs billions of naira. And an ATM machine, for example, will cost at least a 20 million naira to deploy one. So, and then how many transactions are you going to do on those ATMs? And because it's also a very regulated industry, so the banks cannot just say, hey, I'm going to charge you 150 naira per withdrawal. So, but the way fintechs are going about it is just building mobile solutions, focusing on USSD, agent banking. So these things sort of make banking or financial services cheaper on the long run. So I think the fintechs will sort of work with banks to drive more inclusion, because fintechs can do it cheaper and faster than banks.
Right. And you were saying earlier, remember, about these things, a lot of times they focus on Lagos.
How do we get it across Nigeria as opposed to just Lagos? Because there are people that would like to be a part of this movement, you know, ease of payment and things like that.
But they're not even as technologically savvy.
It goes for, and it also starts from the mobile industry as well. These devices that they're also using, are they able to even use bots on their phones, have Kudi AI on their phones, or is there another way around it? Because sometimes they do use these USSD codes. Yeah,
so I think digital inclusion is sort of much first important before we start talking of financial inclusion. And so there are two ways people think about it. For a fintech, for example, building services, you could decide that you want to focus on the guys that are in Lagos, technology savvy, or you can focus on the guys out of Lagos. But either ways, I think, take agent banking, for example. I think it's a very good use case of how fintechs can actually drive payment services without necessarily having the customer technology savvy enough to use the app. Because if you go to an agent, for example, so an agency is like a store you walk into to deposit cash or pay your water bill, for example. So typically, that agent could most likely have the mobile app or the USSD channel, and then you just pay in cash regularly, and that agent does that transaction for you.
Right. I know they do that a lot abroad. You know, you go to like a corner shop and you can buy your, like, you can pay some bills,
everything.
you can get data and stuff on your phone, all of that.
Well, we're going to go on a short break now. Yinka will still be here when we return. Don't go away.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Yinka Adewale is still here with us, and we've been talking about the tech solution his company prefers to online payment challenges. Welcome back to the morning show.
Welcome back.
Mr. Kudi AI. So I know there was a blockchain technology conference. I think it was sometime last week, or was it 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and a lot of people were asking, like, what exactly is a blockchain technology? It seems to be like a new buzzword, a new term. This thing's just...
Yes, like when we had Bitcoin, people
Thank you.
We didn't know what was going
Bitcoin.
on.
Bitcoin. You sleep, you wake up, everybody's talking about Bitcoin, and then you're like, what is Bitcoin? So now the question is, what is blockchain technology? And is it something your company uses?
So, so I think the way to be able to explain it is if you can sort of explain it like my mom or my dad, and if they get it, I think you've done a good job. So I think the easiest way to explain it is, so if you think about the way data storage works today, is that, so you sort of have like a database somewhere, which is just, so it's like having a drawer, for example, where you have files or documents in. The whole idea of, so that gives you like a single point of failure. And what I mean by that is, if all the data, for example, so imagine we're a bank, and then for every financial transactions that passes through us, we sort of keep those documents in a database. It's a database. So if we keep that data in, say, a file, for example, if something happens to that file, whether it gets damaged or someone goes there to alter it, and then so bad things can happen. But the whole idea of having a blockchain is to have a distributed ledger whereby that same database can be across as many databases as possible. So
are they like copies?
Yeah, they're like copies, but they're like, so it's like a real-time copy whereby you have as much backup as possible. So for example, it could mean that if a bank is sort of trying to implement like a blockchain infrastructure for their infrastructure, for example. What that could mean is instead of sort of storing all their data on maybe a particular server, you have so if you store it on the blockchain, it's available across multiple nodes in the world, whereby if something happens to one, you still have the same copy, and the integrity of that data is there because you're sure no one is going to, no single person has that control, no single government has that control to just say, oh, delete this person, delete these documents, edit these documents.
So who has the control then?
So it's controlled by the internet, basically. So it's not controlled by anyone.
Okay.
So that's the whole idea. It's a distributed form of storage.
How safe is this? If it crashes on one platform,
you have millions of it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's fine, yes.
Okay. I mean, yes. I think
so who will really benefit from using blockchain technology? Which industry?
So things like banking, for example. So settlement is a big problem in banking, whereby, say, for example, I draw a transaction with a bank, and then I say, so on my own database, for example, it's, let's say, 10 million naira that we've processed, and then the bank's supposed to pay us 10 million naira. Then the bank at its hand says it's 9 million naira on their database, because those systems are fragmented. So it's your word against mine. We start bringing like audits to actually see who made a mistake. But if it's on the blockchain, we all have the same copy real time. So whatever I have is what you have. So there's not going to be disparities as regards why is mine lesser, why is yours more. So banking is a good use case for the blockchain. Even things like media, entertainment, like the way files are stored, for example, in maybe entertainment, for example, instead of
files.
That's what I thought as well.
Oh, no, files. Yeah, files. So, like, you're just sure that that data is, the quality of the integrity is there, because no single person can just alter one. That means you have to go on all our, so imagine all our computers and mobile phones are like storage for all the documents in the world. So that means that for me to sort of make a change, it's going to be on everybody's device. So if I make a change on mine, and I come to show you to say, hey, this thing has changed, and maybe I just did that illegally, for example, yours would not have changed. So I can't really, but in a fragmented database structure whereby I have my copy, you have your copy, I could go at the back to just make some changes, and things like fraud happen.
So it's very credible.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's real time, like
real time,
everybody is
yes.
operating on real time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're always trying to find out how to protect ourselves. You know, everything is now advancing technologically. Our details are almost everywhere. So what are some tamper-proof ways to protect ourselves, even with like social media, bank cards, details, all of that?
So I guess, so one of the first ways to think about when you want to make an online payment is, so whatever merchant you're making this payment on, whether it's an e-commerce website or it's a payment processor, the very basic things you should most likely check for is if that connection is secured. So you most likely notice some green bar in the website whereby you could see maybe like an HTTPS connection. And then also if that merchant is PCI DSS compliant, what that just means is the fact that that particular merchant can take your card information and store it in a secured way. And then, but if you think about Nigeria, for example, when you think about online payments, there are a few payment processors we all know, like IntoSwitch, Paystack, for example. So those guys are like credible. So I would just say, don't just put your card anywhere. You sort of have to know who the processor for that transaction is. If it's not your bank, you have to be sure.
Right. Oh my gosh, we've learned so much about blockchain.
Social media as well.
And social media,
yeah. I know.
Thank you. Well, tell us, what is the future for Kudi AI?
So so our mission is to make financial services more accessible and cheaper for customers. So as we keep growing our payment transactions, we believe that no one platform can actually build better financial services for customers. So people are going to build savings products, people are going to build lending products, financing products that will serve customers better. So what we really want to do is to work with people in other sectors, like use cases for financial products, whereby we can actually layer those financial products on our platform for our customers to be able to do things like savings, have access to loans. It's just basically financial management, so that at the end of the day, you know how much you're spending, you know how much you're earning, and then you can make better financial decisions.
Right. And is that going to be like a USSD version of Kudi?
Yeah, we believe like payment has to be omni-channel, so as many channels as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something we're
So the
definitely
people in
working
rural
on.
areas can also access Kudi AI.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And for people who want to get into this sector, what are some barriers to entry for the fintech?
Regulation is the biggest one.
Yeah.
So it's a very highly regulated industry. But then working with banks can sort of help you get across that ordeal. So even if you're not a licensed payment solutions provider in Nigeria, all you just have to do is to be able to convince a bank that your solution is going to work. And if the bank is interested, then that can sort of give you, and most people sort of start from there, and then over time go get their own licenses.
Right. So what are some challenges you faced? Or are still facing?
Yes. So the biggest part was starting off was the regulatory bit of it. So most sort of payment integrations you can do with like payment gateways and payment switches in Nigeria, you need a license to do that. And then if you don't have the license, you can't connect to these guys. So you have to get like a sponsor bank, and then you have to chase as many banks as possible to, and then, so that was like one of the biggest challenges we had starting off. And we were lucky to be able to solve that problem. And then right now it's just distribution. So, and what I mean by distribution is just getting as many customers as possible. So, and growth is a really, really tough thing when it comes to online, the internet space in Nigeria, because we are online, but we're mostly online for social media, not necessarily commerce.
Editing our pictures and posting.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll get there, I think.
Well, how is marketing? How is the marketing going for Kudi?
So the sort of marketing we've been focused on for the last 1.5 years, we've been operating as mostly being referral kind of marketing. So we sort of think about marketing from a product standpoint to say, is our product really solving a pain point for the customer? And then they refer their friends, because general marketing is expensive. And if you're not a bank, you can't put billions in marketing. So, but I guess we'll get there at some point.
Because Piggy Bank, they're actually using that, they reward their customers. So it's a referral basis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes.
would you look at something like that?
So that's one of the things we do actually. That's the best way to guarantee for every naira you spend, you actually get a customer.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. So what's your social media handle? How can people keep up with updates?
Social media, okay.
Kudi's social media.
Yes, so Kudi,
Okay, we have it across the screen,
G-O-T-A-I.
Yes, and then the website is kudi.ai.
Yes.
Amazing. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Done. Well, that brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you so much for watching. From the entire morning show team here in Lagos, all that's left to say is enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day.
Goodbye.